Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another hashtag WeAreMovieClub Saturday Hangout. I am Kamurai.
And I'm Charlie. Hello, everybody.
And every week we get together and talk about movies and stuff and things happening in places and industry and internet and blah.
Yeah, we do that as well. Normally because I end up being just so tired that I end up falling asleep towards the end.
Oh, it's okay.
It's more of a fight to stay conscious than much else, but we'll get there.
You're so lazy.
We've done this often enough now.
There's enough serious stuff going on out there in the world and the internet and everything. And even like recognizing the struggles that Anita Sarkeesian is going on, I'd like to just talk about more lighthearted things. You agree, Charlie?
I think the day we do something serious is the day we need to be disconnected.
Well, occasionally I run across that vein where I'm just like, we should talk about this. But I think you and I can both respect Anita enough to acknowledge that she's getting a bunch of shit, and she shouldn't be. But everyone should be able to have their opinion online. Yeah. Okay.
Completely.
So the small thimble worth of seriousness we can get out of the way. Netflix has started doing something new I want to talk about right off the bat before I forget about it. Netflix has finally started integrating with Facebook a little bit more. So now when I finish watching something, not only does it bring up 3 weirdly related movies, but it asks me, like, who else would you recommend watches this? So I get a lot of smiling faces at me from Facebook photos.
Yes, I remember because I've just seen that as I was going into Netflix that there's this new receive private recommendations from your friends. No. I barely have time to watch enough as it is. I don't want to know what my friends think I should be watching.
So you're not a fan then?
Well, it's not that I'm not a fan. It's just not going to be something that I'll be taking advantage of. But that's purely from a sort of logistical standpoint than just outright hatred for the idea.
Come on, Charlie. You should hate things occasionally.
In a slightly ironic twist, the fact that I'm too lazy to use it is part of the reason that I'm too lazy to hate on it.
It's not so much that you dislike it; it's that you just can't be bothered.
It's apathy, yeah.
Okay. I can feel that. I don't mind it. I think it's a great idea. I wish it was something I could just flip off and not worry about it. Because I don't care that people will see what I'm watching, or like when they go to look at something to watch it, they see like, oh, Kamurai's watched this, or like Kamurai recommends this, Kamurai rates it, whatever. I just don't want all you to smile at me when I'm done watching Risky Business or whatever it is.
So suddenly what you thought was private is no longer private.
No, it's just kind of like a weird association. Like I'm winding down, I'm thinking about the movie, it wrapped up, and then all of a sudden Charlie's sitting there. You liked them boobs, didn't you? I'm like, no, go away.
I love how you knew that's probably what I'd say as well.
I really don't think it is, but maybe just a mess with me.
So I see you watched that film again. Any particular reason? Yeah, exactly. Would be the way it would go.
Why? Oh, good. I just released it out of work. Sorry, I was trying to catch up on releasing this stuff while we're on air, and I just goofed it. That's all right.
Clever girl.
After this, it'll be fun. Okay, I always have like this laundry list of stuff to start with.
He's not kidding, folks. He actually does. He's got a massive list of stuff.
Because I always just have stuff on in the background. It's not watching like. Why can't I open the thing on Hangouts? Oh. Okay. Oh, because when we schedule. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about this real quick before we get in that too. Hangouts has started to morph a little bit. We have gone from, and maybe it's my fault for enabling live events. You know what? That's probably what it is.
Carry on anyway, though.
Damn it. Okay, so now instead of Hangouts just showing up in my normal browser, the normal window and everything, it now shows up in a separate browser that I can't dock with anything else. It shows up on Google Hangouts a little bit more predominantly with a different description layout. And then it actually is on our Google Calendar. If you went and looked at our Google Calendar, Charlie, you would see the event there next to our Hangout notice.
Yes, I had noticed that.
So I kept going into our Hangout because it was like, oh, it's starting now. That's very yeah.
Well.
Ooh. You rewatch? Okay, I just saw your to watch list. So let's talk about series first. I'm gonna get these out of the way because this is Weird Movie Club and this is the exception, not the rule.
Go for it.
Well, I was watching something on Hulu the other week, and I can't remember what that was. But Hulu has this horrible thing of just throwing you to the wolves of another program. So I ran across The Awesomes.
The Awesomes. I feel as though I should know about that.
Well, it's like it's almost like a version of The Tick. It's all about making fun of superheroes, particularly the Avengers, because the Awesomes start as a government-regulated super team, and then Mr. Awesome himself goes, "Fuck you guys, I'm leaving," and he leaves the planet. So his successor, who he picks, is not his son. The successor goes, "I'm disbanding us." His son ends up going, "I'll do it. I'll keep the Awesomes together," and everyone leaves. So he has to like form the Awesomes out of the reject pile. And it's just one awful superhero joke after the other. It's like the Avengers meets drawn together. That's really what it is.
Okay.
So each of the rejects have their own quirk. Like Frantic's a speedster, but he's gay and just like ADHD and redneck as hell. So they play up on all that. What is it? There's a guy who is Green Lantern, but he has a pink crystal instead, and everything he morphs has his mom in it.
Okay.
Let's see. Gadget Gal was a superhero in the 40s who got injected with some kind of serum, so she's 80, but she looks 30. So she plays like a really poor Batgirl character.
Right.
Then there's a Hulk character. It's like a 10-year-old Asian kid who turns into a sumo wrestler when he gets upset.
I'm trying to think of a pun for that, but I can't. Nothing's coming up.
Yeah, it's just Hulk no like sushi. I don't know. Then there's Muscle Man, who's just a brawny guy who is almost as strong as Sumo, but not quite. So he's just the big dumb guy. Then there's the girl that got hired because the main guy thought she was hot. She has like electric powers. She's a techno psychic, sort of. It's such a weird show. But if you know anything about superheroes or the Avengers, it makes fun of it. And probably my favorite character is Black Shamrock. He is a joke on Batman.
Okay, is the name a joke as well, or?
Well, his costume kind of looks like Batman if he was like overly Irish. But he's the world's greatest detective, which is what Batman's known for. And so he has a cape, and then when you first hear him talk, he talks like this. So I'll find out your mystery for you.
I'll find out your mystery for you.
No, he doesn't have an Irish accent at all.
He needs to.
No, he doesn't, because that's the whole joke. That's the entire joke, is
Oh.
that he talks like that, and the whole time, Proc, the main character, is like, dude, I can't. What is going on with your voice? You need a lozenge here. And so like they give him a lozenge or whatever. He goes off, and when he comes back, he's talking like this, and he doesn't know quite what everyone's problem is with the voice, because the lozenge works so well.
Have you ever thought of going into voice acting?
I play with it on occasion, but anytime like my face is on camera, it never works out. If I can get like an animated character to work with, I think I could do it. But that is not a normal range at all. That kind of hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say that that's not entirely normal.
And I caught a couple of episodes of Defiance. I really love that show, and I wish Hulu and all these networks would stop being little bitches and just let me watch up to the current show. It's annoying as hell. But what have you been watching series-wise? You got something on there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got Red vs. Blue 9, obviously, which we'll get into in a moment, but also I have... I watched the first series of Red Dwarf again, which could potentially move into a project, but I'm very tentative about that at the moment, not just timing-wise, but if I think it's worth the bother.
Well, I saw that. Define project. What do you mean?
Well, because I'm incredibly excited about the fact that Red Dwarf 11 has now been confirmed, which is something that makes me very pleased. I was going to rewatch the whole lot again, because, well, as though I needed an excuse. But I was going to throw reviews out for the series, but I don't know whether to review them as series or do episodic reviews, which I could conceivably do because there is so much in each episode. I could easily do a 3-minute review for every single episode.
Now, they're 1-hour episodes, right? About 40 minutes?
Half an hour.
Oh, okay, so they're shorter. I've always struggled with this, and I tried to have conversations with people when I was more involved with the larger community, because honestly, it feels like you're robbing the show of quality when you do it the whole season together. There's just too much.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, Series 1 of Red Dwarf is one of the best because of the way it just fleshes everything out within the first episode alone. The first episode could conceivably have been made into a series because there was that much in it. And if there's a strange sort of, well, there's a book that ties in, like a novel that ties in with it, and the first third to half of the book is only really sort of what the first episode could have covered. So okay. I think to do it all as a series review would take me, I could be sat here for a good 20-25 minutes, which obviously is not what I'm here for.
No, I wouldn't care if you spent 20 minutes on here talking about Red Dwarf, honestly, but I don't know, like I think there's no right way to do a series review. I'm going to continue to do them reviewing the series as a whole because ideally my reviews are a half-hour show shortened into about 10 minutes. That's kind of where my brain is on those. So even then, at a half hour, I feel like I would, if I was going to do like the first season of Big Bang Theory, I feel like I would be robbing it. But if I do episode by episode, that's so much work to do each one, and how much can you really talk about one episode unless it's special? So, like, if you took Doctor Who, for example, you could review series by series, but when you get to something like Blink or Bad Wolf, you need to stop and do a whole review for that.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. I mean, some of them you can do episodically, but at the same time, there are some that aren't really quite worth it. They weren't quite strong enough episodes to warrant an episodic review. Now, there are people like Amy McLean who primarily review TV shows, and I can't remember if it was Sabrina the Teenage Witch she did episode by episode or not.
But that could be a whole thing. Like, if you really like a series and you think it's worth a review, that could be your whole shtick, is going in and just doing a episode-by-episode review of it.
I think my theory at the moment is try it, see if it works. Try it episodically for season 1. If it does work, carry on. If it doesn't, then change it.
Well, but look at it too. Like, how many episodes are in season 1?
6.
Oh, then fuck it. Yeah, do 6.
You expected me to say like 20, weren't you?
Yeah, 6 half-hour episodes. Fuck that. You could easily do that if you got enough to talk about.
Well,
I keep thinking American series. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, for the first one, definitely you can easily throw like the thing is, I only try to do 3 to 5 minute reviews anyway, so I'm not trying to like make an episode length review here.
No, I'm not saying do a half hour for each half hour you watch, but sometimes you're like, well, Riley fell down a well. We'll see if we get him out next episode.
Yeah.
Of course, UK shows, to their credit, tend to have a little bit more substance to American shows, where we draw it out sometimes like that.
Mm.
Where, like, you look back and you're like, all that fucking happened is the kid fell in the well. That's it. And you spend 40 minutes on that.
There's a bit more to it than that, but
no, I'm sure Red Dwarf's a deeper show. Are you familiar with Dragon Ball Z?
Familiar with it, but I never got into it. I just never really was too interested by it.
It's a show that's famous for drawing things out. Like, in a big fight scene, they'll spend a half-hour episode just charging up and yelling at each other.
I can see that because of the bits I've seen. You know, it definitely feels like it's one of those that's, well, a slow burner is an understatement.
Yeah, but that's like, it's so bad it's to the point where it's like it's famous for that. So it's like giving something the DBZ treatment specifically means to drag it out like that.
Part of the charm, isn't it?
I don't know if charm's the right word. So anything else you want to say about Red Dwarf? I don't mean to cut you short.
No, I think, just if I do decide to do that, it will be in the next few weeks. So if you are in the slightest bit interested, do tune in for that. It's a format that I may roll out to other things because ideas sprout from here, there, and everywhere. So it may be that I decide to do a bit more with that, but we shall see. We shall see. Lots is going on in the world at the moment.
I believe you. I'm trying to coordinate myself in the best of manners, and I just need to stop sleeping so much. I either like don't sleep enough or I sleep way too much, and I don't understand how to find that middle ground. But speaking of this, I did mention Sabrina the Teenage Witch a little bit ago. Melissa Joan Hart, who played her, and I knew her growing up from Clarissa Explains It All, has a show called Melissa and Joey. It's probably canceled now, but
It probably doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, go on.
Well, I mean, it exists. I watched the first season this week. I just actually got to season 2 like an episode ago. So it's really interesting. It's really nice to see that she's held everything together physically and acting-wise. Because she's just as goofy as she was back then, and she's actually a pretty funny actress when it comes down to it. She delivers really well on that.
Is it worth my time?
Your time, probably not. I think it's funny. It's a great family dynamic show. The whole basis is that her sister and her husband, her sister and her sister's husband got in trouble for some financial Ponzi scam. So her sister goes to jail. Her sister's husband goes on the lam, and then she gets their kids.
Right.
And then one of the guys who got screwed over and lost everything, or everything that he didn't lose in the divorce, whatever it is, shows up at a town hall meeting because she's a councilwoman, yelling at her, and they end up getting to a point where he needs a job, and she's just losing her mind over stuff. So he ends up agreeing to be her nanny. So he moves into the basement and starts living with them. And so there's that whole sexual tension. Then there, she's trying to deal with not knowing how to be a parent. He's trying to deal with being able to help out with everything. And then there's all her job stuff. So there's lots of interesting dynamics going on.
Doesn't sound too bad.
No, academically it's actually really interesting, and it's pretty funny. Some of the kids' stuff's a little tiresome, but I can't see you watching and being like, yeah, Melissa and Joey.
I could see me turning and going, ooh, Melissa Joan Hart, but that's probably about as far as that would go.
Yeah, she wears some interesting outfits from time to time. So I mean, that part of it's nice on its own. It's like, why are you wearing that? And then the next line is yeah, I decided to slut it up for going out with the old sorority gang. It's like, oh, okay. So there's actually prime and point to it too, which is nice. So let's see. Did you watch any movies, or is this about to drone on for a minute?
Probably about to drone on, but I did watch Red vs. Blue 9, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I definitely want to end on that one so we can talk about it. Okay, so real quick, I won't spend too long on any of these. I got on a horror kick this week.
Okay. Let me load up IMDb.
I actually forgot to mention Hostel 3 last week, or I watched it after the Hangout, and I just can't remember where it was. I really like that one. I like the Hostel movies. They're a little bit of a gore fest from point to point. But the premise is super interesting. Just the idea that there's a elite hunting club that kill other people. And the premise on this one is that it happens in Vegas. So this is the American chapter. And I'm not it's a small twist, so minor spoiler alert. One of the guys who's in the club gets captured with his buddies. And so that's part of the dynamic going on is they're trying to escape, but their friend is one of the club members now, and he got released, and it's really interesting to see how they deal with it. There's not much story.
It's more of a character-based film.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of character basis on it, and it's just survive. That's your story.
Live to survive.
Yeah, but that's how it is in a lot of horror movies. It's there's not a story. It's the main character ran from the main antagonist the whole time. So of course they escape to a point so that there's any type of chasing going on because there's no point to it otherwise. But I do have a couple movies I could besides that one I could recommend that are better because Hostel 3 is definitely not for everyone. Absentia is a really good horror movie. I love clicking on a movie I haven't seen in a while, not knowing I've seen it. You get that, don't you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said all the time.
Oh, I've seen this. Let's watch. So this is Absentia. It's all about this lady's husband went missing about 7 years ago. They're getting ready to call him dead. She's now pregnant with someone else's kid. Her ex-junkie sister moves in to help out with everything. And it turns out she's involved with the detective who's covering her husband's case. So immediately all those dynamics I like. Well, it turns out that weird things are starting to happen around town again, and her dead husband shows up. He's been gone 7 years. They can't figure it out. This is all pretty much off the box cover. And he's terrified that something's going to come back and get him. Notice I say something, not someone.
Not someone. Yeah, I was just thinking that as you said it.
Yeah, so it's all about him going disappearing. And it's enough of a cool experience in everything that I'm not going to spoil what the the antagonist is.
Again, he said what and not who.
Yeah, because obviously it's something supernatural going on. It's not just he was kidnapped and held in a basement. And if you watch the movie, it's very obviously like that because she starts having visions of him in places, and it becomes very clear what's happening as the movie goes on. But I'll ruin the entire movie if I spoil it. Playback. Oh, this was an interesting one. Not one I would recommend you watch per se, but it's got a very interesting academic basis. There's like the first story is this teenager kills his family and tries to run away with a baby, and the cops stop him and kill him and whatever. But he records everything. So like the backstory is that like the family has this tradition of passing this weird twisted soul forward in their family, which is just so out there that it's like, really? Let's watch this.
So you're more watching this out of curiosity than anything else?
Yeah, that's why I kept watching it. You could easily shut it off after the first half hour and be like, okay, I get the gist.
I was going to say, because I'm just looking at the two you've picked, neither of them are above 5 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oh, and I'm not surprised. But that's the whole idea, is that like one of the kids in town who's kind of nefarious as it is, ends up getting hit with that soul because it gets passed through cameras or pictures or whatever. Mm-hmm. Cameras specifically, sorry. And so he thinks that he's the killer from the first story, but there's other stuff going on with it all. So he's trying to track down his kid or track down the baby. Sorry, track down the baby and everything. And it's really just this weird movie of busted dynamics between characters and. Oh my gosh. Just great concept. I really wish someone would remake it into a good movie.
Yeah, someone would do it, but do it better.
Yes. Kind of like Transformers, you know.
Well, we can live in hope on that one.
Crow's Nest.
Crow's.
Damn it, I keep forgetting what this movie is because the name has nothing to do with anything. And I keep going, what was that movie about? Oh, yeah. It's a found footage thing. Kids go to the woods, this RV tries to run them off the road. They end up hitting one of them with the thing. The girl who gets hit and another girl gets kidnapped, and it turns out they're cannibals. And that's pretty much off the box right there. Like Norwegian cannibals or some shit. So the rest of the movie is them running around with the camera on, trying not to get eaten by the cannibals, trying to save their friend who's still alive. And there are points where things go well, and there are points where things definitely do not go well. But if you cannot handle gore, do not watch that movie, because it is very graphic. And if you can't handle found footage, don't watch it, because that's a whole other medium at this point, you know? Have you ever seen Cloverfield?
No, I haven't actually.
Or Quarantine?
That one sounds more familiar, but probably still no.
I'll tell you right now, if I can verify they're on Netflix, they will be my next couple picks.
They will go on your list.
That'll go on my list for us to watch. And then I have to apologize to you for this next one. I saw a movie on Netflix that made me immediately think of you.
Oh God, is this
The Nut Job?
Yeah, you've mentioned this.
I apologize.
Why?
Because it is not one of your movies at all. it's got like a kind of a serious premise to it, and it's got like a lot of like serious action to it. Liam Neeson plays the raccoon who's in charge of the park.
That is the one I'm thinking of, yeah.
And Will Arnett plays the main character.
Yeah, this is the one I was wondering of, because as I say, this has only just come out. This has only been out about a month in the UK.
Yeah, I really think this was a horrible casting decision.
Who's in this then? Let's have a look. Will Arnett.
Um,
Liam Neeson. Is this the only Liam Neeson film he's been in where he hasn't had a phone call from someone that he doesn't know, but he will find them and he will kill them?
He does a lot of things, but they do typically be very stereotypical action-type movies.
Jeff Dunham's in this.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I could definitely see him livening this up a little bit. But like, there's actually like scenes where they're trying to kill each other, and those could have been tampered. But just having Will Arnett's voice in something that looks like a kids movie ruins it, because adults are not going to watch this because it looks like a kids movie, and then kids are going to try to watch this and immediately go, "He sounds like the guy with free candy." Because Will Arnett's great, he's funny, but he's not a kid's actor. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they have announced the second version of that, apparently.
Oh, really?
No Job 2 is due out in January 2016.
The store's gone, so how are they...
It doesn't offer any kind of synopsis at all.
Yeah, screw spoilers on that. The whole premise is that they're trying to hit this nut store in the city to take back to the park, or for themselves based on who the characters are, that's owned by a mafia boss, or a crime boss, who's trying to rob a bank across the street. Or next door or something. So they tunnel from the nut store to the bank and rob it, while the squirrels and everybody are trying to rob the nut store. So the crime guys are trying to kill the squirrels and gophers and stuff while all this is going on, and it's just disappointing.
It sounds like an interesting premise, but at the same time, then it doesn't sound as great in the end.
No, it's just not. I turned it on expecting like something lighthearted and nice, and it was like, oh, I'll sit through this, I guess. Okay, so moving on, Dark Space. You know that trope where kids go to the woods and something bad happens?
Oh, you mean like every single scary movie film?
Basically. So in this version, you just put them on a spaceship first and have them crash on this planet.
3.8 out of 10 according to IMDb.
It probably deserves less.
It's a German film.
Honest. They speak English.
Yes, it's supposed to be a German film by the looks of it.
Thinking about the cast, I could see it being an all-German cast, but they speak they speak English pretty well.
Oh no, it's classed as American actually. Sorry, I take that back.
Okay, either way, it wouldn't surprise me. So, like, the spaceship is so damaged that they can't keep pressure. Luckily, the air is breathable on the planet, but there's some kind of creatures in the woods and stuff while they're looking for help. And then they run across the worst space marines I've ever seen, who apparently are just trying to kill everything. And then they reveal this whole plot about how humans aren't supposed to invade inhabited worlds for colonization, exactly like what's going down. So the military wants to kill them along with all the creatures. So now it becomes not only a thing of survival, but getting off the planet to let the human Imperium know. And it needed a bigger budget, better creatures, and honestly a more believable delivery. Because No, if this was the Warhammer 40K universe, oh man, it would have been awesome. Because not that like it would have they ever would have got off the planet, but let's suppose they sneak off the planet, right? Well, they would have came down and would have been space marines invading the planet of hostile creatures. Maybe it's just like Kroot or something. Kroot actually would have been really good. Because then you could have had a Narlock. Oh. So, but then like you could have the Space Marines. You could even have like the Tau Empire interfering. The whole time where these guys are just trying to survive and make it back off the planet, and let the Imperium know. But you remove the whole thing about having to let someone know, because yeah, we know we sent them there to do it. It's on the news. Like, we're clearing out Alpha Centauri 5 now. So it's like, oh, it's just another front with the Tau. Sorry. I keep expecting you to know what I'm talking about when I talk 40K, and you probably don't.
I try my best to
no, it's all right.
Keep up with.
Remind me that you don't know what I'm talking about, and I'll stop.
I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, it's fine. So, okay, and then there was the shrine, which was actually really interesting. I want to talk about that last, or before we get on to the last couple, but I can't remember what Lovely Molly was. Oh, I turned this one off. Do not watch Lovely Molly. Screw it. These couple move to this house to kind of start over, and she goes kind of crazy, and it gets really annoying, and then you turn it off.
Right, okay.
That was my experience, anyways.
How far in did you get?
40 minutes, I think. And the movie's only like 80 to 100 long. Not very
99.
long. Okay, so... okay, so... The shrine was actually... It had a super interesting concept, but just I think like almost everything wrong happened with that movie. I don't think it was super well casted. The delivery's horrible. And the effects are a little weird. So the premise is that this reporter's trying to keep her job by tracking down these people who are disappearing in places, and she finds out that the last place that this one guy went is this town in, like, Bulgaria?
Okay.
Like, northeastern Europe. Somewhere really remote. And there's this fog that just sits up on this plateau and doesn't move. So when they get there, they see it, and they're like, oh, this is what that guy was talking about. Let's go see what's up. So they go to get to like the edge of the fog, and they're trying to figure out what it is, and then one of the girls is gone. So the other girl goes in after her and finds this demon statue that actually starts crying blood.
Nice.
And in its hand is a heart, and the heart starts beating. So she gets out of there, and the other girl has come back by that point. And so they get out, and they're like, well, what was in there? And they're like, nothing, and it's just nothing. So they leave. But once they got to that point, the locals get really restless with them, because they've already told them to leave at this point. They didn't want them to go up to the fog. But very few people speak English well enough. So there's lots of conversations going on where it's people talking native language to each other.
I know it.
What was that?
Dunno.
You listening to things?
No, I'm sorry. Facebook was on in the background, and suddenly you know how videos are now automatically playing, which is really pissing annoying.
Mine start muted, but anyways. Regardless, so like now that they've come back, the little girl they met who speaks English decently tricks them into this shed to show them the guy that they're looking for, because the locals killed him. And so his body's in the shed, in a coffin with like this face mask on. So she locks him in there and goes to get the adults. And the adults end up trapping and catching all three of them.
Mm.
And they take him to this weird priest guy, and the priest guy looks him up and down, and he goes to the women, and he says some stuff. And so they throw the guy in a cell, and they start stripping the women, and they put them in these ceremonial robe things that the dead guy was in.
We've all done it.
Yeah, it's like you do.
We've all been there.
So, but they end up putting one of the girls on this rack, and it turns out the face mask is actually spikes injected into the skull through the eyes.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing on the cover there. If you looked it up on IMDb.
Yeah, I wondered what that was.
So yeah, I think that loses a lot of credibility looking at that weird ass picture without knowing what it is.
Mm.
So like that's a mask that kills people because they actually like take hammers and come down on it. It's
Bang,
super
bang,
crazy.
Oh, a hammer.
So at that point, like it's like escape or die, escape or die. They got him like digging graves. She's wigging out in the cell while they're waiting to clean up and kill her, I guess. I don't know why it took so long. But they get away. They start running through town. They kidnap somebody, and she starts seeing people turn into demons. So she's like, get back, and going crazy. And then they get in a situation with the locals, and they end up, he goes to deal with the locals, and they keep her with the family they've kidnapped. And while he's outside, they start hearing all these snarlings, growls, and howling, and it turns out like she's been turning into a creature the whole time, and she just murdered the whole family.
Lovely. It actually,
Go ahead.
oddly enough, that sounds like a film that would probably interest me.
It sounds super interesting because you're like, because I was thinking about halfway through, I was like, what would this movie would be like from the other side? Like the locals like have to deal with these fucking Americans that keep showing up. Mm. And then like they get sick and they start fucking with things and then ruining their way of life, and it's just one thing after the next that they've got to deal with, and sure enough that's what's happening with the movie. So the guy has to hunt down his friend and kill her along with all the locals. And then somebody finally sits down and explains to him everything that's happened at the end, that it's a curse, that it's if you go into the fog, you turn into the thing, and they have to stay there and guard it. So,
yeah.
I'm confident enough that if you watched it, even with me telling you all that, you'd still enjoy it, if that's your thing.
Probably. How long is it as a film?
Runtime is
85. Yeah, I could easily get through that.
So yeah, it's less than an hour and a half.
Just not watch it too late at night.
Yeah, if you get nightmares, don't watch that ahead of time. But I mean, I just ruined it all for you, and I'd confidently say, if that sounded interesting to you, if you watch it, it will still be compelling.
Yeah, I'd definitely still watch that.
Okay, so that's all the shitty movies. For RT screenplay this week, Face Off. I would not be surprised if you've seen that.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about the Rooster the Teeth stuff. Where are they putting that? Is it on their actual channel, or is it in a...
Well, if you go to roosterteeth.com, I think /screenplay, that's where their home is for their podcast. It's where their pick of the week is every week. But the Rooster Teeth has been branching out, so don't eat my pretzel. Sorry, cat. So on YouTube, they've actually started to channel themselves mimicking their native site. So I think Achievement Hunter actually has their own channel now. I could be wrong. But there's also a channel called The Know, which is youtube.com/no. Fucks me up every time.
No.
But that's where they moved the patch, which was... They used to have 2 podcasts every week. There's the Rooster Teeth podcast on like Tuesdays, and then Thursdays is the patch, which is their video game podcast. And then on Wednesdays now, they've got Screenplay, which is their TV show and movie podcast. And that's on The Know.
Okay.
And that's head up by JJ. I always want to say Abrams. I know it's not his last name. But JJ's actually running a pretty good ship so far. I think just the worst thing that that's happened with it is that they named it screenplay. And I can't let it go. Eventually, maybe, but not yet. But I really like what they're doing. I really like hearing them. It is interesting that he's got such a varied cast going every week. And he has kept a token woman each episode thus far. But we haven't repeated. Well, that's the thing, is like I think Meg was on the first one, and then they brought in Ashley, who can actually carry a conversation equivalently to Meg. And then Barbara came on, and a lot of the comments were like, why was Barbara on here? Which I thought was unfair, but I don't know. Anything she's on, I'll watch. And then they brought on this other girl who does movie reviews for this other website, not directly involved with Rooster Teeth. So they're actually expanding and getting different groups of people on the show. So I'm super interested to see where it keeps going. And I just want them to rename it RT Screenplay at this point.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm not trying to goad you into talking about that, but okay.
Yeah, no. It would make sense at this point if it was RT Screenplay officially, because when you look up hashtag screenplay stuff comes up and not the podcast stuff. So it makes them harder to notice. Not that I'm a marketing expert. I could use a hand with that. Couple directions, but Face Off. Face Off was the movie there. Nick Cage, John Travolta, where they take their face off and trade. And
right.
It's up your alley because it's an FBI agent hunting down a criminal, and he has to switch faces with them to find a bomb, and then everything goes horribly wrong.
You're right. That does sound like something up my alley. So
yeah, that's definitely one you should check out. I won't spoil anything here. You can check out my review or listen to them talk about it next week. But I did watch Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
Yeah, I still need to do that.
So we'll get to that next week.
It's on UK Netflix, so it's easily catchable for me.
Yeah, it turns out I had an image for it, so I watched it that way. But well, I can't wait till next week to talk about that one because it's one of those movies, and I think we're gonna run into like the Van Helsing conversation again. It's just my prediction. Right. But let's talk about Red vs. Blue Season 9. You want to start off?
I was about to say, in a similar vein, let's move straight into RVB. And I'm really not sure how to quite sort of do the proverbial short sell on this one, because it was amazing and yet what?
Now, which part? Now, I'm serious. I'm almost serious about sitting down and cutting it and reformatting so it's contiguous. Because that bothered the shit out of me.
How do you mean? Oh, right, yeah.
That we flash back to Blood Gulch repeatedly. Because to me, it's two seasons, 2 shows worth. You've got Project Freelancer, and then you got Blood Gulch.
I think the Blood Gulch bit, I've actually said this in a video that's not being released until Wednesday, so I'm not going to try spoiling it too much.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have the Blood Gulch stuff in there at all until the very end.
See,
I would get rid of it completely.
And my opinion is that you separate the two. You actually, I would have ran 2 concurrent series. Instead of making it Red vs. Blue, I would have had Red vs. Blue Season 9 be the Blood Gulch stuff, and then do Project Freelancer Season 1.
You could have done it that way, but I think that if you're going to have a series entitled Project Freelancer, then it needs to be on them. And I did suggest a way, I'm not going to ruin this bit, but I did actually suggest a way that you could have integrated them a bit differently.
Okay, I look forward to seeing that.
So integration is possible, but I think that it was a bit jarring. Well, not jarring, but it just didn't seem to sort of mesh too well.
Fuck that, it was jarring for me.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is so awesome! Wait, why are we back in Blood Gulch?
Yeah. It was that, yeah.
in particular, I want to talk about your first 20 minutes because I requested you film it, but I think you said you had to watch it on a train. So.
Oh crap! Yeah, I completely forgot about you saying that.
No worries.
Yeah, I was on a train when I watched it, but yeah, that's probably the closest I've come to dribbling over visuals and graphics.
Dribbling, really?
I think my exact turn of phrase that went in my head when I saw how good the start was shit the bed. I think I'm going to enjoy this.
Just on an aesthetic level, like, it's fantastic. I mean, I no
God.
joke gave it a 99, and I maintain that.
It's kind of what I almost wish they'd been able to do from the very beginning, because it was using the motion capture stuff.
Yeah.
Everything just felt very crisp, very fluid. It just worked really well, rather than what we had in season 1, where everything was a bit clunky and they were very limited by what the game engine could allow.
No, and I'm totally with you there. I think if they were to redo like season 1 forward from this point, I think we could get a super interesting reboot from it. But with Monty doing Ruby, we're not going to get that because he's probably too stretched out between Ruby and Red vs. Blue now.
I think I'd actually be against redoing it. It's very rare that remaking or remastering something is a massive improvement. I think there's how do I describe this? There's sort of certain connections with it, and the best comparison I can come up with is a complete, well, non-real comparison. But in 2002, a music album by Rush called Vapor Trails came out. It was the first album for 6 years, and it was the first one since the drummer had lost 2 members of his family. It was done in such a fashion. It was recorded quite poorly. They kind of overmastered it, and it sounded really heavy, really raw. They didn't like it, but they still released it anyway. But I think that the remastered version isn't as good because you can almost make a kind of emotional connection between the real life events and the fact that the music sounds different. So I think with the original Red vs. Blue Series 1, it's almost a symbol of how far it's come, and I think that was one of the reasons that it was meshed in together. I read on Wikipedia of all places. But there is the noticeable difference, but it's also a noticeable difference of how far the series have come in 9 seasons.
And I don't disagree with you there, but if I gave you a video game that you played 10 years ago and then gave you the same video game with better graphics, would you agree that's better?
Interestingly, I'd say yes, because I had exactly that same feeling when Pokemon Heart Gold came out.
Now, see, yeah, so you got things like with Pokemon, Mario Brothers. Every time that if you go and play it on the Wii, like Super Mario Brothers 2, and you play it on the old NES, there's a serious graphics increase for a 2D side scroller that looks that cheap. That you would never really think of, but you get the same game, you just get the better skin on top of it. And that's what I would want, is I want the same script, use the same audio even, but just animate stuff in front of it.
Yeah.
Because it works because it's a machinima. That's the only reason why I think it would work.
I think it might make some of the middle series of Blood Culture a bit more watchable. I remember me having a serious not really wanting to watch this about halfway through season 3.
Well, that's a shame because I like season 3, but I think you could definitely liven up seasons 2 and 4 with some fancy camera stuff. And then even in season 1, when Tex shows up and starts laying into Caboose for target practice, or there's just several scenes where you could reshoot with floating cameras, and the point where who is it, Caboose? Caboose shoots Sarge in the face while Church is possessing him.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Think how good that would look if you could have a floating camera, like zoom out on Blood Gulch and like do a not bullet time, but like following the shot across the way, and there's just so many ways you could improve like the look of things.
I can see your point, and I think that the only reason that I'm saying something other than that is because I'm a terribly nostalgic bastard.
No, I'm fine. I like it how it is. I like the dialogue, and I'll turn the damn video off and we'll listen to the whole thing. I'm fine with that. It's one of the reasons why I like Clerks so much, is because it's a very dialogue-driven movie, along with Red vs. Blue, and quite honestly, it's worth it to me just to listen to the story and what's happening and how the characters interact, because that's what it is to me. It's not the fight scenes for most of it, mostly because they couldn't do it in the beginning. So they had to have that good dialogue. Now we get to 9 and 10. I'm almost like, stop talking and fight.
I suppose it has moved on in a way, hasn't it?
Yeah, but there's still good story going on, and the fights are purposeful. They're not just like, we're gonna. Well, I take that back. The fight between Tex, Maine, Wyoming, and York. Because that was season 9, right?
The 3-on-1 fight.
Yes.
That was good.
That was so good. But like Wyoming and Maine were just being dicks the whole time. They actually could have taken her, I think, if they had coordinated it all.
One thing I did like, which you will see in the review that's going to be uploaded probably tomorrow, is because as usual I watched this episode by episode, and the second episode, which is the north-south one,
yes,
where that I liked because there was this character dynamic that was being developed instantly. I mean, earlier in 6, I'm tempted to say, that North and South were referenced and very briefly appeared. But you didn't get much more than that.
Well, because at the beginning of 6, South had put North in a position to be killed. It was actually during relocation. Right before season 6, where North dies, and then in season 6, we come across South, and she's already betrayed Washington by shooting him and leaving him for the meta.
So this is the thing, it's not a massive introduction for them, so to go back, and I likened it to like a yin and yang type thing. There's a very character-driven episode there, which I think sets the tone of it really well, and also the music for some of this, for some of those scenes, I actually want to go and get as a soundtrack. Some of that was some really good stuff.
Yeah, and I can't remember how much of it is their own stuff. Like, they've got a music guy who coordinates all that stuff for them, but they really do get some amazing music, and they definitely get the mood set. So while you're watching them run around Xing all these guys, your blood gets pumping a little bit. I'll be honest.
Well, the thing is, it adds another layer to the atmosphere, which is, well, part of the reason I watch things. It's to get invested in the atmosphere, and the music definitely helped with this one compared to the earlier series. Oh
yeah, and the music and was there, but the tone in the early ones was like, let's just relax and have some funny jokes with our Blood Gulch and this machinima. And when we get to Project Freelancer, it's like, let's fuck some shit up.
Yeah.
So it's very much the feeling, especially in the North-South thing, because they're supposed to be on a stealth mission, but South is a dick.
I think that comparison works really well, though, because, the first few series, it's just Red and Blue pissing about, so there's one that, but then by the time you get to Freelancer was always, I get the impression, to be intended to be a much more, not intensive, but, a much more aggressive and sort of more focused on action unit.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
It fits to have a much more dynamic. Actually, that's where the sort of fluid motion actually comes in as well, because if they're intended to be like this superior class, then having superior movement and quality, superior character, superior music and atmosphere. I suppose it all sort of clicks together in a way.
Yeah, I totally agree. That I'm just trying to think how to put it, because I agreed with you when you said intensive or intense, because there's a lot of stuff going on in Project Freelancer, and it's all very serious.
There's some serious shit.
And the director's a dick too. I hate him so much by the time, like in Project Freelancer, he's just, Agent Carolina, what do you think you are doing?
That was quite good actually.
He just has so many lines where it's like, I'm in charge, don't forget. But we see like lots of good dynamics on. We get a better look at what the project actually is. We see the leaderboards, which, like CT says directly, that causes a divide. It's either above a certain line or below a certain line.
I tell you what, you can tell I'm not an American when I'm sat there going, what does CT stand for?
Oh.
That one did take me for the director to use the full version of that for me to click. I must admit, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But there's that thing where he's calling her like Abby or something. Connie, that's right. Connie is in Connecticut. Okay. Maybe that's the part that we both missed there. But it's like he's calling her Connie, and then it's like she yells at Washington about it and like, call me by my code name, and then she says CT, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the point there was not necessarily that she was Connecticut out of the 50 states, but that we've already established a character named CT. Did you catch that?
No, I hadn't, I must admit. Actually, can I make a really pedantic point?
Sure.
As far as I'm aware, there is no US state called York.
New York.
I know, but I'm being pedantic.
He's Agent New York, but they just say York.
I'm still being pedantic.
It's still the state of York, it's just the new state of York. I agree with you, I'm just saying that's the logic in place.
I agree with you, but here's where you're wrong.
Agent Hampshire. Sorry, there's a state called New Hampshire. Now, that actually brings up a really good point. Like, we don't see Agent New Mexico.
Yeah. There's a massive potential racist quicksand patch there that I'm going to walk around.
What?
No, there were some people on UK TV that got in a bit of trouble for comments regarding Mexicans and productivity, and I'd rather not go down that path.
Okay, so from an American standpoint, that's a very confusing thing because it's split down the middle. Like, there's a stereotype that Mexicans are really lazy, and then there's a stereotype that Mexicans are probably the most hardworking Americans, even if they're illegal.
Yeah, the former one is the one that was used over here, and it got them into quite a lot of trouble.
It's just an interesting note. Not that it's something we need to talk about here, but it's just funny. And to me, in my head, it's a work hard, play hard scenario.
Yeah.
Because after some of the hours I've seen people put in, like, all they want to do is sit back and have a beer, and like that's their life where like things are good. So as long as the longer they can stay in that mode, the better they feel about their life. Regardless. So yeah, so we don't see any of that, but we see the Dakotas and we see one Agent Carolina instead of there being two, or at least thus far. But you'll see why she's Carolina coming somewhat soon. Or you could just surmise from this point that she's twice as good as any other agent.
Yeah, you kind of got that impression.
Yeah, because I mean, like in the first one with North and South, she comes up there and saves their asses. Oh, I do want to point out something. Okay, so let's finish up talking about the action scenes, and then I want to rewind and talk about their equipment and whatnot.
Okay, well the action scenes were brilliant. End of story. Let's carry on. Next.
Well, well, no, because there's a thing with North and South. There was the fight between Tex, and then the 3 other agents. There was, when they went in the building.
Yeah, there's the heist.
So there's the heist where they threw the sarcophagus on the gurney, and then Maine downstairs. And there's the probably my favorite one out of all of them was the heist where it's Washington and Carolina. Because if you haven't picked up at this point, Washington's kind of like the class clown.
Which isn't something we get in the previous series where he's been around, 6 in particular.
Yeah, and he makes a point about it in one of the later things where he's very serious about trying to tell the Sim soldiers, like teams Red and Blue, about how he used to be, like when we're watching now, versus how he is in season 6, 7, and 8. So it's a really nice moment that happens later on. But regardless, he has some of the funniest dialogue in this. It bounces. Who makes ammo that bounces?
Yeah, that was quite a good one.
And then like they get through the door and right, and like so all that smoke's there, and they have the dramatic opening, and they walk through, and it's just like I think the only guy standing at that point is the guy with the flamethrower, right? And he's got like the sharks on him. Go ahead.
I thought that was quite good. I saw that, and it's like flamethrower. That okay.
Which is actually a weapon you could get in the game.
Can I just put it out there now that a flamethrower is a really undervalued weapon in films in general?
You have to use it right. That's the problem, is that it's the first weapon that anybody will go, well, if that happened, then the whole building will go up. So it's hard to control. That's all I'm saying.
I am always a fan of a flamethrower, let's put it that way.
I'm with you, buddy. Burn it all. But it's just that moment where like he walks to the door and like Washington's like, what's this guy's problem? Or like that guy's a dick. Well, we get that cool scene where like Carolina throws the Banshee at him. Oh man, it's so good. And then when we get to the top, and that's where Tex shows up, right? I'm getting that right?
Yeah, and you're not sure whether she's a traitor.
Why do we think she's a traitor at that point?
Well, I don't know, because I thought that... Didn't they think she was planting a bomb, and then it turned out she wasn't?
No, she was... Okay, okay, I can see your point. Okay, if you go back to the north-south scene at the very beginning, Agent Carolina's sent in to rescue them and get them on the plane, get out of there. Somebody, after they left, actually set charges and blew the base up. Carolina accuses that Tex of being that person at one point. Because at this point, no one's really kind of like familiar with Tex. So obviously she's been used in stealth, let's say.
Yeah.
So they think she's there to blow up the building once the job's done to clean up their path. Like, so there's no evidence.
That was where I was thinking, and then there's the bit immediately after where they're chasing after the ship, and they're kind of, no, I'm doing this, no, I'm gonna do this, no, I'm gonna do this.
No, hold on, you skipped a part. You skipped a couple parts I want to talk about real quick.
I've skipped a bit. Cratchit, go back.
Because I could talk about this for much longer than we're going to, but like immediately, like Tex disappears, Carolina blends in. And they start fighting on top of the roof there, and this what in itself is a great fight. And then we find out what Tex was doing, is she was readying it for the global cannon, or the cannon on the spaceship to fire. And we see that entire building go up.
It was good.
That's your opinion? It was good?
Well,
It was freaking amazing.
I was about to say I'm a fan of a collapsing tower block, but I'm not sure that's the most appropriate thing I can say.
No, no, 9/11 was a horrible tragedy. I'll start by saying that. But watching that happen on screen was amazing. And then our protagonists actually escape. Well, they free fall.
The free falling was good. I like how you can jump into a ship at an angle.
Yeah, and what Agent Carolina was trying to do was get the sarcophagus steady so that they could barn swallow it. The pilot could, but it never happened. I don't know why. So, like, it just took too long to get everything ready, which is why Tex interfered and left Carolina and Washington stranded. Because York was on the ship, right?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Okay. Well, yeah, it had been Washington. Because they start falling, they're like, well, guess we're going to die. And then Maine shows up with the car and actually saves them.
Oh, yeah, because he comes out on the quad.
With the Warthog, yeah. And it turns out that Bravo team fucked up their mission pretty hard. I still want to see that. I want to see Bravo team run their mission.
Spoiler alert, you don't get to see it.
No, you don't. It's a shame. It would have been such a good DVD extra. But the whole point is that they now have to go chase down the briefcase as well. So they're in a car, so they go and do that. Which is leading up to what you were talking about. But that was an amazing fight, the traffic fight. Because you're like, they're throwing the knife all around. Maine is like boxing with the guy. He gets shot a few times. It's where he gets his neck injury.
Yeah, because I tell you what, I must have slept through that bit because I couldn't understand why that was the case, and then I read on Wikipedia what happened.
Yeah, because up to that point he was already kind of a quiet guy. And like, so he says a couple things, but he obviously talks funny. Like, they're about to throw him off the side of the building to get the sarcophagus up. He's like, too hard, and then somebody kicks him in the butt. Because Maine's one of my favorites, I'll be honest.
Certainly has upsides.
Yeah, and they even do a good job of making him look bigger. Plus, he's got that cool EVA helmet.
Well, yeah, he's visually a bit different, which again is pretty good.
But seeing him and Carolina back-to-back fighting, that was pretty good. I liked that all on its own. But Washington was driving the car. That's right. He ended up driving. But that leads up to the point where like Tex shows up. She gets Phyllis to launch the pod. She takes out the Hornet, I think that's following them, and she's on the motorcycle to go get the thing. Now here's a point where people debate about something. There's a point where Tex tells Agent Carolina to fall back. You remember?
Yes.
Because Carolina's determined to get the package before Tex does. And we get to see her actually use one of her equipment things, which we'll come back and talk about in a minute. When Tex tells Agent Carolina to fall back, why do you think she did that?
I'd like to think it was something other than like a personal, not necessarily a vendetta, but like, just, you know, I'm not having you coming in here and taking away what is supposedly my glory.
Do you think Tex would have got it on her own if Agent Carolina had fallen back?
It's potential.
Potential. My opinion. Sorry.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I mean,
I'm leading you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether whether it had one fallen back that the other would have necessarily done it.
Well, here's the thing: is my opinion, because we know that Tex is AI at this point, is that she calculated everything on purpose and goaded Carolina into continuing to pursue the package so that she could use her to create enough distractions for Tex to get the package.
Yeah.
And people bitch and complain about that on forums, but that's my opinion, is that Tex uses Carolina, which is why she's so upset by the time she actually loses. that unnecessary competition, honestly.
Yeah, it is unnecessary. But like I say, it goes to what I think is a very well done and well character driven series, because it adds that extra, it adds another layer there.
Oh, I totally agree. I love family dynamics in like groups like that. So the competition aspect between Agent Carolina and Agent Tex or Texas is super interesting, and it gets more interesting the more you find out, because there's some stuff you still don't know in season 10 that will definitely wrap it up, and we'll have a very nice conversation to follow that up.
Yeah.
Um,
So next week on We Are Movie Club.
well, well, let's rewind back to the equipment conversation, because what do you want to establish what we know about AI and equipment thus far based on seasons 1 through 8?
No.
Okay, I'll try then. We know that freelancers, when they show up, they each have special abilities. In seasons 1 through 8, we see that Tex has invisibility. She was paired with the AI Omega. Wyoming could actually like short time loops. He was paired with AI Gamma. York was paired with Delta. We're not entirely sure what equipment he had. We know that South ended up with a bubble shield, but no AI until she had Delta. But we do know that the bubble shield originally belonged to North, and he was paired with Sigma? No, not Sigma. Phi, I think. I could be wrong. I can't remember his AI, but we know that he had an AI that got captured by the meta. So we know, and then like in season 8, I think there was actually an experiment. They hooked Griff up to some equipment, and it turned out to be a speedster equipment. You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it went bad because he didn't have an AI to run it. So when we're going into season 9 here, and we're seeing like Carolina telling North that he has authority to use equipment in the field. He gets on top and he does that cool bubble shield, right? That's what we see?
Yes, we do. That was quite good.
But so that's no AI or anything. So that could have gone very badly for him. Because do we really see any AI other than... Oh, hell, we don't... No, we meet Delta at the very end, don't we?
Yes, there is the thing with Delta, and again, I think that's possibly just another hint towards, linking back to the past. Actually,
Good.
I was about to say, because there's the thing right at the very end with Epsilon Church where he's in the is it the capture unit or something like that, and he keeps almost being snapped out of it by Caboose and Tucker at the end, and he's like, kind of, just fuck off and leave me alone, etc.
Yeah, he does, because at the very end, that is very much how he is. He's like, I was happy. Why'd you save me? Which is just kind of funny, but concentrating on the Project Freelancer side, we do see Alpha Church at one point, and the director tells him to hide, which I thought was a nice touch. But we see other people using equipment as well. So Tex obviously has her invisibility at this point. We don't know if she has Omega. What other equipment do we see? Do you remember?
Are you talking just in general, or weapons, or what?
Equipment, like specialty stuff, not necessarily guns.
So I can't really think of anything.
Okay, so if I remember right, I think the only other person, which is why I'm having such a hard time with it, is Carolina. She ends up using camouflage the very first time we see her. She's blended into the wall, and then she jumps out and starts attacking people. And then when she's matching up with Tex, she also has a speed unit.
I think so, yeah.
So she actually is granted with 2 pieces of equipment where most of the people have none.
But we know that she's given, I wouldn't necessarily say a priority, but she's certainly got favour with the director because he sends her.
Oh yeah, but she's capable. That's the point there. Other than Tex, she's on top of the board. That's why she's allowed it. I think.
Well, that makes sense, and then obviously she sort of swears her oath and says that she will do anything for him.
For the director?
Well, yeah, there's that bit just as he's kind of giving her this mission to sort of go to and sort it. She just essentially, says, I sort of owe everything. I will do anything.
Okay, yeah, and that should be all of them. You would think there'd be some kind of basis for loyalty there, but I don't know. But the point is, and she runs both without any AI, which I don't know if I'm just highlighting an inconsistency, but it seems very interesting to me that happens. And I think based on the fact that we're going to get Delta. Or we get Delta at the end of season 9. I think we're gonna get more and more into the AI. The part that bothers me, I don't know if I'm spoiling this for anybody, is that in season 6 even, by the time Maine has become the meta, he has camouflage.
Yeah, he does, because we see that a lot earlier on in the whole series, don't we?
Yeah, we don't necessarily see him with a speed unit though, so we don't know what happens there.
I think it's assumed, well, because there was one scene in an earlier series where, like, I think, he captures Delta at one point, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he picks Delta up.
And then there's, like, you see the sort of amalgamation of everything that's been picked up already, and I think that there's something there that I can't quite put my finger on, but there's definitely something to do with it there.
If you are looking at that crowd of people, and there's probably like an image or something we could throw up there for it, but Omega is there, Delta's there, North's AI is there, I just can't remember his name. Fucking Sigma's there, which you haven't met yet. My bad. There's like a couple others. Oh man. Now I want to find this.
I'm trying to get to it myself.
Oh, okay. It's not the same scene we're talking about, but there is a picture, like when you Google the Meta AI, it's... Oh. Huh. Okay, so I'll throw this in chat for you.
North has Theta, apparently.
Has what?
Theta.
Theta, that's right. There's this little chart thing here as well. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. It was actually a really neat picture in general, but let me... Oh, where's chat? Chat. This window doesn't even dock, it seems like. Okay, there we go. It's docking at least. So there's the picture that has like the names there. There's another one, and I think this is the first one I saw. And this last one's actually my favorite, but for whatever reason, the meta's in blue armor, which I don't know what that means. And Icon ID on that last picture, or the last and second one's pretty much the same. They're close. Icon ID Theta, Delta, Sigma, Omega, and Gamma. But I don't know who the yellow one is. And honestly, I don't know if Gamma's the blue one or the white one. I thought it was the white one, but now I'm having second thoughts. So what's that first picture there? Somebody's deviant art. So maybe that didn't actually come up when you clicked the link.
Probably not. But
Okay, so
we'll go with it.
oh, that's supposed to be Allison. So that's supposed to be Tex. So okay, Gamma's the blue one. Where? So who's the yellow guy? Oh, Iota. Iota. So interesting. Oh, you know what? I never thought about that before. Text being beta.
No?
Because you have the alpha, and then you have beta, and then you have delta, and then I think gamma would be next. Because, like, however the Greek alphabet works, they're supposed to come out in that order.
Right, okay.
I don't know why. Go ahead.
I must admit, I do get confused with the AIs and all that shit.
Yeah, so it goes alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. So at this point, then gamma would have already been created if it absolutely goes this way. Then epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu. Now it doesn't mean that all these were actually like kept. They could have like had fragments that they just discarded. But since we know gamma exists, I don't know. We'll have to wait till season 10 to see if that, because I don't know why they would show as delta and not gamma.
It makes me wonder.
Because then theoretically, like after delta, epsilon gets created, and then like Washington goes crazy, and then they stop making or making fragments for everybody. Because then we would never get to theta or iota.
We'd never get there.
Yeah, so they obviously aren't in literal order.
It's good though. It's definitely a good series, and I like that.
Oh, there's so many. Okay, there's all now that I'm googling stuff. There's all this conspiracy theory stuff about the meta. Okay, so I need to stop. I'm just so excited we've gotten this far. It's so good. But since we're gonna stop at season 10, it means that I gotta start going back to real movies.
We're going to real movies.
So that'll appease all the people actually looking for movies at Movie Club. We're just kind of hoping that we'd pull some people who are interested in RVB.
But you never know what happens.
That's all right. It'll be okay. Wow. Okay. So, anything special going on in your world that you want to talk about, project-wise or anything?
Not that I haven't already mentioned. No. Things may change on my channel. There may be a few things that happen, but I'm not sure yet. We shall have to see. But yeah,
you
keep
start
posting.
having naked webcam shows.
Well, you know, if it brings the money in, I've got to pay for my degree somehow.
I'm telling you, if I had desirable parts and stuff, I'd be on there.
He'd be on that like
Yeah.
a car.
I'd probably be real short term. I'd probably only do it like a couple years, enough to get a couple years worth of income, and then I'd just stop and be like, I'm done.
Kink.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I'd be pretty flexible if it brought the money in, but after all that, I'd be like, okay, that's done. Now I'm gonna start doing game design full time and just paying myself.
How's that going?
Well, that's the only big thing that's going on. I need to get better at time management. YouTube takes time, even if it's a little bit of time. So I need to get better about just doing stuff, even if it's menial, and getting it out of the way, and getting my day schedule on track somehow, because I can't find a happy medium for it.
That's always the big problem with anything, though, isn't it? It's not necessarily a movie-specific thing.
Yeah, and then as long as my one artist stays alive, because I'm worried that she might actually die, she just keeps going to hospital, and then I don't hear from her for a while.
It's worrying.
Yeah, I hope she's okay more than getting work done for me, but I think what's going to have to happen is that I'm going to have to go to Fiverr and commission work piece by piece. And the initial set, or the sets for the card game, are 120 card sets. So I'm going to have to decide what the minimal amount of cards are that I'm willing to repeat. And then just kind of go with that, and then upgrade from there. Because if I did individual unique cards, it would be $600 minimum for one set, and then there's potentially 4 sets. 3 of them having different rules involved in them. So I just have to sit down. I got to finish that stupid list because it's annoying to write 120 characters down and then having to do it 3 more times. And just coordinate with people. And I had somebody. It's such an interesting deal because it would be more cost efficient to do it, but I just don't know how to go about it because the guy wanted me to do some flowchart work for his game. In exchange, he'd do some card art. But there's not enough time to do it all properly.
There's not enough time in the day.
Well, because he needs it by a certain deadline, and it's like, well, it's probably not going to happen.
Well, yeah, that's a
and
fair point.
I mean, I've got time to wait on the card stuff. I've got campaigns running. Hopefully, somebody will notice. One of my buddies backed it for a full set of starter decks.
Oh, wow.
So it's my first $40 donation, but it's on the Kickstarter, which I totally appreciate because if I don't meet my $5,000 goal, which I don't know because I don't know how this works yet really. So I'm probably gonna have to take $100 and just throw it at people who's like, we'll share your thing for you. Because this crowdfunding world's just new.
Crowdfunding is new and scary.
But it's one of those things. It's like if I've got $100 that I can put towards that, whether or not I actually have it, I'd almost rather just put it towards getting the art done and self-funding.
If you've got the art done, then that kind of, it's a platform for you to be able to continue to promote it from. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I just need a hot artist writer friend. Or girlfriend is what I meant. And then we can help each other out with stuff because I just need to get starting this done. And I've started trying to play with doing the art on my own, and I'm okay with it looking kind of weird and horrible, but fuck, I need to be able to smooth out some of the wrinkles on it. Because I started drawing like a nimbus, like a cloud, and not super proud.
Oh well. It's better than nothing, I suppose.
Yeah, so one way I'll get there, I think I'll start trolling DeviantArt as well, but I think Fiverr is going to be where it's at. It just seems so sensible. $5 seems to be the lowest amount possible I could pay somebody to get a piece of art back and feel okay about it.
I remember hearing about that. I can't remember where I heard it from. But,
when Mark W. Gray was on, he makes a lot of his living from Fiverr.
That could be it.
And I wish I had things that I actually wanted from him, because it sounds great in concept getting Mark to do stuff for us through Fiverr, but I have no idea what to have him do for us. because it's not like he's going to put it on his channel in front of his guys. He's makes a product and he gives it to us to do whatever we want with it, or me. So I'm not sure like what to do with that, because I started trolling through Fiverr and there's a bunch of artists on there that'll do work like that and all kinds of neat stuff. It's really interesting. So I think that's what it'll come down to, and I think I just need to be like, look, I need a sand guy, a ice guy, a rock guy, a diamond guy, and just feel like make me some golems.
Yeah.
Or elementals, or whatever you want to call it. And that'll be the first run of it.
Onwards and upwards.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that I got in one of my moods finally where I'm like, I feel kind of funny in life, and I haven't bought a new game or anything in a while, and there's that saying where like money's burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right? Well, like me, I just get a little crazy, and like it helps with finding some agency in life. You do some retail therapy. That's what they call it. And by far the most entertainment you get per dollar is games. So I actually dropped some money on getting some new board games.
Right, yes, of course.
I did some unboxing, but I got a new Ascension expansion, which isn't exciting. It's like more of the same type of stuff, but it's interesting. And then I bought Super Dungeon Explorer. You know what? Vamp for a second. I'll go grab it and I'll show you.
Yeah, sure. While he's gone, I can talk about anything I like. But, yeah, if anyone's watching this and they do want to support him, go on, throw $1 in his bucket. It'll make him happy. I would if I could, but, you know, all of my money sadly has to go towards me getting an education, which is seeming a bit harder at the moment. But, oh, he's back.
Okay, sorry. This is the part where people could probably just stop watching, because we're kind of done talking about movies.
As though we ever started, but carry on.
I maintain that I've based this whole thing off of Polaris's co-optional podcast where they occasionally talk about video games. Love you, TB. Love you, Dodger. Love you, Jesse. But this is Super Dungeon Explorer.
Dungeon Explorer.
It's a rather thick box if you compare it to my head. And like it's got stuff and good and really neat artwork on the back. Like you have no idea how much I would love to have that artist do my elf set.
He would die a happy man.
It would be amazing, because the sand elves are gonna need someone special to bring them to life. It's just how it is. But the reason the box is so big, yeah, you get these boards and stuff. Because it's a dungeon crawler. I don't know if you've ever played a dungeon crawler.
I have been known to on occasion.
So I'm just going to show you a couple things, then we'll end the cast, and then we can continue offline. But it's a neat enough game that I thought it was worth putting a couple of models on air real quick. Like this is the big boss that it comes with.
Ooh.
So it's like a little dragon guy, and then I'm obsessed with putting game stuff in baggies, so that happens. But like, there's a little shaman guy who turns into a werebear.
Shaman.
So that's the comparative size, and then like so most of the people, like here's the barbarian, are this size. So compared to the boss. If you know anything about putting models together, don't ever use anything but model glue.
I remember doing that a very long time ago when I used to do Airfix models as a kid.
Yeah, but you end up with silly stuff like that. You can't really see all the white. Oh, you can see it on the bottom pretty well. I use Gorilla Glue, which is not designed for models whatsoever. But
Made
it
from
holds pretty well.
100% monkey.
I wonder. But no, I just want to show that real quick, and then we can talk about more stuff. But I was just excited. This fucking Gorilla Glue is horrible. It just it keeps expanding. Let me show you the ogre thing here real quick. Like, you see how like it's in like little spheres? Like, that was all clean last night. I ripped parts of it out, so it actually expands and grows out of the cracks. Okay, so I'm gonna make you do it this week, but I'm Kamurai. I do stuff. Where is it? Over here. Yeah. You can find me on these channels. I do stuff for YouTube sometimes, and then on the Twitters you can yell at us up there at WeAreMovieClub, and you can tell me I suck at Kamurai25. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but it'll let you vent, and maybe you'll save someone else the bother.
And you can throw $1 in his bucket.
Do we have tip jars yet? Or do you have a tip jar?
I don't have a tip jar now. I don't think I need one.
Well, I mean, that's a new thing on YouTube that they're experimenting with.
Has that been rolled out yet?
Well, it was rolled out officially at VidCon, but it was mostly for the high-end partners, so I don't think it's common use yet.
I was gonna say I haven't seen any real use of it. Oh god. Falling asleep.
Okay, but take us out, Charlie.
Oh yeah, of course. And I'm Charlie as well. You know where to find me at the Charlie M on Twitter, Snowdog140 on YouTube. That's pretty much the only places, well, apart from Gaming Division and WeAreMovieClub, of course. I will get back to Gaming Division every now and again. But the general gist of this whole shebang is WeAreMovieClub. So if you want to get involved, then please do. We're going to Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters this week, which is my turn. It's one that has been sat on my Netflix queue for a while and finally want to get around to it. So we're going to be watching that. If you want to take part, please feel free. You're more than welcome to. The Twitter link is there. The YouTube link is there. So just follow those and see what you think and let us know. But as far as I'm aware, that's all we've got for this week. So we'll see you all at the same time next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.